Yes, hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today? I hope you're all good and fine. Now, more evidence is surfacing that is showing that the Electoral Commission indeed rigged the election in favor of Museveni. Now, in Uganda, for those of us who have been here long enough to understand Museveni's tricks on how he rigs an election, number one, this is what he does. He makes sure that he floods the entire ballot or he floods the entire competition with people of his own. Like, for example, he stages contestants that are under his grip. He pays for them the campaign money, he pays for them for the media appearances, as well as paying for them for the registration money, which is very, very expensive, something like $5,000. Amounting to 20 million Ugandan shillings. Now, in this episode today, we look at a gentleman who is really interesting, known as Katumba. Katumba is a 23-year-old who ran in the election. But you should all understand that the presidential election did not only have Bobi Wine and Museveni and Patrick Amuriato Boy of the FDC, but it had a string of around 11 contestants, right? And we were all wondering where all these people came from. But now we have understood the purpose of having such a crowded number of people on a ballot paper. Number one is to confuse voters. Number two is to make rigging easy so that you can distribute part of your competitors' votes to some of these other contestants, and then come up with something that is plausible to the electorate. Now, the Observer ran a story that said that Electoral Commission gifted Katumba with Bobi Wine's votes at 7 polling stations. Now, we should all understand that these polling stations were all in Bobi Wine's stronghold, especially in districts of Mokono and districts of Wachiso, as well as Entebbe. So what the Electoral Commission did was this. It got Katumba, giving him something like 300 votes, like at 7 polling stations. This gentleman known as Katumba, a 23-year-old, who was not even popular at all, because only people knew him as a joker and, the statements he was making here and there. So what happened is the Electoral Commission, in order to justify the results, right, it gave Katumba, some of Bobi Wine's votes to this gentleman known as Katumba, who was brought into the competition by President Museveni himself and his entire cartel of people, because they filled these candidates in order to split the vote and also in order to give them the votes of some of the competitors. Now, you should remember very well that the Electoral Commission announced results before giving us a report or before compiling the results. Now, what happened was this, that after a while, we pressured the Electoral Commission to give us the results. To give us the report, granular data of the results, which they could not provide. So we pressured and pressured and pressured. And even the timeline of 48 days after the announcement of the elections had even passed. 2 weeks later, Byabakama comes out with the results. He puts them on his website. The Electoral Commission website. We go there, we download the results. And now the anomalies that are coming out from the results are really, 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 really damning. To the fact that now we are seeing Katumba, a gentleman who could not even get 2 votes at his own polling station, he all of a sudden got majority votes at 7 polling stations in Bobi Wine's stronghold or in Bobi Wine's constituencies. Now, this is what happened. When the Observer went to investigate about the story, I'll link the story down in the description below. When they went there to investigate about the story in one of these polling stations known as Maganjo B, Church of Uganda, when they reached there, they found out that according to the results that the Electoral Commission had released, Katumba had won this particular polling station with 333 votes, followed by Museveni with 61 votes, followed by Bobi Wine with 1 vote. Now, it is it is impossible for Bobi Wine to get 1 vote in a district or in a central district that is in either Kampala or Wachiso, because this is the Bobi Wine strongholds. So they are saying that he only got 1 vote, whereas Katumba got 333 votes. So the Observer sent its journalists out there to do an investigation. Now, when they reached on ground, Everyone was surprised. Everyone was shocked. They said, what? Even the NRM people were shocked. They are like, no. This is not right. What those people did is absolutely not right. Because all of these polling stations, it is Bobi Wine that won all these polling stations in this particular area at this church. Because Bobi Wine had won with 333 votes. And Katumba, in fact, had gotten 0. And the rest of the candidates had also gotten 0. Whereas Museveni had got 61 votes, which was okay. Now, what the Electoral Commission did, they got Katumba's votes and gave them, they got Bobi Wine's votes and gave them to Katumba, and then got Katumba's one only vote and gave it to Bobi Wine. Just listen to that. I mean, let that sink in. Getting votes of another candidate, a very weak candidate, and giving them to you, and getting the votes of a strong candidate and giving them to the weak candidate. Now, this did not only play out at one polling station. It happened at over 7 polling stations in the country. Now, there are also instances where they inflated one of the candidates and then the rest of the candidates' votes remained constant. A case in point was in Entebbe, where they gave another contestant known as General Henry Tumukunde, they gave him 435 votes, and then these other ones were given constant votes that that corresponded with their DRA forms, right? But that has a problem because Tumukunde never got those votes. He never won that particular polling station. Because all that affects the entire opposition. It affects the entire voting process and things of that sort. Now, going back to the other story, as I wind it up, at that Church of Uganda, Maganjo. Now, when the journalists went ahead to look for Bobi Wine's representative at this polling station, the supervisor, they asked him and told him about the news. She was also shocked. She actually got the DRA forms, the pictures, and she showed the journalists saying that, look, what you have is the complete opposite of what it should have been. The people who were given the votes, that gentleman known as Katumba was given Bobi Wine's votes, and Katumba's vote was given to Bobi Wine. And the lady proved it with the DR forms. My question is this. Right now, Bobi Wine went to the courts of law, in the Supreme Court, to present his case. But we all know that the Electoral Commission, as well as the Supreme Court, have already made their judgment. They are going to come out and say that whereas all these, irregularities happened, there is no way that they would have changed the outcome. That is what they are going to say. Now, we all have to ask ourselves, how many irregularities are supposed to happen, right, to the extent that they can change the outcome? Do we need like 1 million irregularities? Do you need like 700,000 irregularities? Do you need 2 or 3 irregularities to be convinced that they can change the outcome? I can even mention 20 at this particular show here without even leaving my seat. Because we all know elections is a process. There is a pre-election period, there is the election day, and then there is the aftermath. Now, if you get all those into, if you outline all them, for example, let us look at it. Bobi Wine is stopped from holding a a party conference. Bobi Wine is blocked from going to over 60 districts. Bobi Wine has been tear gassed. His supporters have been beaten. His supporters have been shot. Some of them have been killed. He has been arrested countless times on the campaign trail. 64 people were killed on November 18th and November 19th. And you tell me that all that did not change the outcome of the election? Before the election, the government carried out an intimidation process whereby they aligned the soldiers on the streets of Kampala with plants on their heads, with the assault rifles and machine guns, as well as tanks and things of that sort. You mean that cannot change the outcome of the election? Because that was an act of intimidation, suggesting to people that do not turn up to vote. Bobi Wine's posters have been taken down. People who have been holding Bobi Wine's campaign posters and signposts have been arrested. Wait, also that cannot change the outcome of the vote? All right, okay, let us go on to the election day. We reach the election day, the internet is switched off. Number one, Bobi Wine's agents are chased away from polling stations. They are not allowed to look into the ballot boxes. Ballot boxes are stuffed. Pre-ticked ballots are all over the place in favor of Museveni. The soldiers are commanding the people to vote Museveni by force. Those who refuse to vote Museveni by force are refused to vote. The soldiers also tell people, in some circumstances at certain polling stations, they tell the people that, look here guys, you have already voted, you go back home, you don't even need to come and vote. As the voting day drags on, what happens is, when times for counting votes, when it's time for counting votes, people are chased away. And then these people count their own votes, and then they vanish. They go with the results and they send them to the Electoral Commission and they announce those results. Now, for those NUP agents that managed to go away with the DRR forms and the results, they are hunted down like chicken thieves. And then they are hunted down all over the place, everywhere in the country. And then the DRR forms are confiscated and they are taken away. And they are beaten and arrested as well. So you mean all that cannot change the outcome of the vote? Really? Now, after the elections, we all find out that the Electoral Commission was announcing votes that they did not know where they were coming from themselves. We realized that 1,200 polling stations that belong to Bobi Wine were not included in the final tally that the Electoral Commission announced. We also realized that during the process of counting the votes and giving us partial results, the Electoral Commission was granting Museveni more votes and granting less votes to Bobi Wine, but Museveni's percentage was not increasing or decreasing. Such kind of inconsistencies. We find scenarios where one candidate was given more votes than he had actually attained, and the Electoral Commission officer had to ask one of his counterparts, a supposed handler, that, hey, is this real? And they could not understand. The fact that the Electoral Commission officer also refused to sign on the results and give that task to the deputy who never presided over anything. Very interesting, right? Now we're also having instances like this where Bobi Wine's votes were given to other contestants. And his votes, and these contestants who got less than 1 vote or 0 votes or negative 1 votes, they got those votes and gave them to Bobi Wine at over 7 polling stations. In the results the Electoral Commission released, we also find statistical impossibilities whereby the Electoral Commission awarded Museveni with 100% votes at 848 polling stations. And all these polling stations, no one died, no one migrated, no one, just simply refused to come and vote. But all these people have turned up, voted for voted for Museveni, and did not vote for any other candidate. That is the sort of election that we ran. Amidst all that, beating people, switching off the internet, kidnapping people, arresting people, people being abducted, and so on and so forth. So my question is, how many irregularities do people need? How many irregularities does the Electoral Commission need? How many irregularities and all these kind of things does the Supreme Court need to make a fair and sound judgment that this was not a free and fair election, and that we should go back to the process once again? Well, that is just a question, but I believe we shall get the answer when the Supreme Court makes its decision. Until then, we shall wait and see what happens. Thank you very much for listening, and please subscribe to the page, and we shall be getting you more updates on what is happening in the country and more evidence that is coming out showing these sorts of irregularities. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.